Welcome everybody, this is the Wealthy Retailer Podcast. My name's Dan Holman, and if you're in and about the retail world, you want to listen to this conversation. My guest this morning is Bob Negen with the Bob, there's a host of things you're going to look to Bob for, but we're going to start with WhizBang Retail Training and their leader, their thought leader, their guide, Bob Negen. Bob, welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, Dan, it's my honor to be here.
So here we are, Bob. I want you to, before we kind of roll into some conversation about at some place we're in some level of recovery, I want you to tell the listeners that don't know WhizBang Retail Training and don't know you a little bit about, how this came to be, how you created this dominant, retail group, and let us in on your secrets.
Sure, of course. So the 2 cent story is in 81, I was 23. So yes, it does date me, but I had just graduated from college. I didn't want to get a real job, and I had to do a hobby, and that hobby was kite flying. And I didn't want to get a real job, and so I thought I would open a kite store, because everybody knows that it can't be that hard to open and to run a successful retail store. So I opened one of the world's first kite stores with no experience, $2,000 in my pocket, and I turned it into something. It took 19 years and a whole lot of hassle, a whole lot of heartache, live and learn, learning lessons, trying stuff out. And when I sold it after 19 years to my brother, who was also my junior partner, in 99, we were a $3.5 million a year business. So for a lot of retailers, that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you sell kites and toys, it's a good business.
It's a big number.
And most importantly, it ran well. It really, really ran well. And so in 99, my wife, Susan, who was a department store executive before she came to work with us, we started WhizBang Retail Training, because we had, I had suffered the pains of growing a successful business, and I knew that it could be taught, that retail skills and success is a skill set and can be taught. So that's what we did. We started WhizBang Retail Training in 1999, and we just celebrated our 20th anniversary, and I'm just really proud of the impact that we've had in the world of independent retailers. And
your community continues to grow day by day by day. How do you continue to grow that community? Well, so growing our community of retailers is exactly how you grow a community of customers in retail, right? You just provide great value. Yes.
Our philosophy is all about service. In fact, our mantra here is income follows impact. So, the question that we ask ourselves is how do we have more impact? Because we know that if we do right by our clients, they're going to give us money.
Right.
Because they know that if they give us money, they're going to get more money in return. And, that's exactly how I built the retail, the Mackinaw Kite Company. It's like we showed people a good time. We treated them well. And also, what I learned in retail and what I applied to my, to our information business, for lack of a better term, is that it's all about the list. Build the list, get a customer, get their contact information, build the relationship,
right.
Add value.
Right.
And so that's sort of how it worked.
And that's synonymous with exactly what needs to happen in our retailers' lives today. And that was kind of why I asked that question that way, is I want you, for any business, Bob, not retail training and education, but any business on the planet, these philosophies hold true, right? Income follows impact, service above self. It's a consequential world. And every business,
Absolutely.
Every entrepreneur out there can listen to that message from all of us and learn from it. Okay, let's talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's talk about we're on this path to recovery. And recovery, let's be fair. What we did have was a crystal ball a few months ago. You know, we had a good vision of what was happening in retail. We knew how to apply pressures to change the outcome. And that crystal ball got smashed, you know, early in March. And we don't have the same insight today as we once did. So we're on this path of recovery. Who knows how far, how close, how near that we are to that, but we're on this path. What are we telling our retail community to do? How are they persevering?
Sure. So I think that, you know, one of the good things that is coming out of this is it's really forced people to get serious about the fundamentals. And so, you know, when times are good, it's easy to be sloppy, or it's acceptable to be sloppy, right? I mean, at Canadian Retail Solutions, you manage inventory. That's one of the things that you do. Well, you know, when times are good and cash flow is strong, you know, you can have a little, you know, wiggle. You can have a little slush in your mix. But when times get tough, you tighten up your cash. You tighten up your, you know, you get better. You get more fundamentally sound. And I think that is something that has come from, you know, the big disruption is that it forced people to evaluate what they're doing, to get focused on the fundamentals. And that's what brought people through. And the you know, sort of what I'm encouraging all of our people to do is keep going with that. Don't forget the lessons that you've learned. One of the things that we learned as a business, and that we're absolutely going to, you know, sort of drive home as this recovery continues, is this whole idea of you need to have a rainy day fund.
Right.
You know, so whether you put away, you know, 0.5% of your sales or whatever, because, you know, my brother-in-law is a scientist, and he said to me, he says, this is going to happen again. There's going to be some kind of disruption again. So, you know, get tight, get strong, and, you know, put a little money away, learn the lessons. You know, I mean, lots of things happened here. Don't let this whole experience, this whole disruption go to waste.
Right.
What are the lessons that you've learned, and how do you make sure that you're fundamentally stronger in the future? Right.
And I want to just take off on one thing that you said. I mean, this idea of what, you know, we're talking about putting a few pennies away, putting a few shekels away, putting, you know, whatever we can, that comes from living in a profit place, a profit first place. Yeah, loonies. Yeah, right on. Loonies and toonies. But this idea comes from us, you know, putting our profitability first, putting sustainability, you know, ahead of all else, making sure that we have the power and the opportunity to be here tomorrow. And we've got to change that mindset in our retailers. Too many of us are $200 from living on the streets, and we're not taking 10 cents from every dollar and parking it in an investment account because we feel like we can't. But can't is a choice. How do we get this message home? I mean, is it fear?
You know, no, it's not fear. You know, Dan, I mean, I know that you do a great job of working with your clients. You know, this is all about education. And, you know, it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning of this interview. At the end of the day, if you're adding value, this is why, you know, at WhizBang Retail Training, we have lots and lots of free resources.
Right.
You know, so it's all about building, you know, for you and I having this conversation, it's all about us building the trust in our clients. So when we say, this is a really important thing to do, they say, oh, Dan said that. If Dan said I should put a couple dollars away, I should put a couple dollars away. Or, you know, for us here at WhizBang Retail Training, you know, we have our Retail Sales Academy.
Right.
So, you know, the whole deal is you build the trust so that when Bob and Susan say, yes, you need to engage in ongoing sales training to make your business what it should and could be, they go, oh, Bob and Susan said that. I should do that, right? So,
right.
And this is exactly what your retailers do. We're sort of having a broader general business conversation here. But so let's say that you have a client who is in a woman's clothing store. Their job is to build the trust with their clients so that when they need a dress or if they want to look amazing for a night on the town, they don't say, I'm going to go to Zappos or I'm going to go to the mall. I'm going to go to my favorite independent brick and mortar boutique because I know that I'm going to be able to trust that they're going to do me right. That when I walk out of that clothing store, that I know that I'm going to be dressed and I'm going to kill it that night.
Yes, well said, well said. And so, I'm going to play off a little bit of that. It's our responsibility to continue this path of education. And it's our responsibility to continue building, amassing an audience that does trust us and believe in us, so that when we do say to them, you've got to put pennies away today, or loonies or toonies or whatever it looks like, that it's impactful, that it's meaningful. How do you continue to adapt what you're doing at WhizBang Retail Training to stay relevant so that they continue to listen?
Yeah. So is that a question?
Yeah. What are you? How do you? So how do you continue to evolve and adapt so that you remain this leader in retail?
Well, so there's a couple things. I learn. I learn from everybody. This is why I love our Facebook community. I'm watching. I'm seeing what people are feeling. A couple of your clients are in our Platinum Mastermind group.
Yes.
I'll tell you what. They learn a lot from us, but you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm learning a lot from them too. Just being curious, really seeing that I am, even though I don't have a retail store right now, that I am an independent retailer at heart, and I am part of the community of brick and mortar retailers. I'm watching. I'll tell you what, one of the things that came from the whole disruption that was so important to me is it really forced me to think about our marketing strategies and to adapt them to everything that was happening. And through that adaptation, because I was, living in that situation, like not full-time, full-time almost. You went through it. All of your clients went through it. It sucked us into it.
Right.
But, just being in it, thinking about it, trying to come up with creative solutions for your community makes you stronger, makes you better. Some people, trainers and coaches and speakers, they give the same stump speech every time for, 20 years. That's not how you and I roll.
No, it's not.
We're getting better so that we can help our clients get better.
Right.
We're adapting because they need to adapt.
Right. And
that's how we keep our credibility.
Right. And I think that you and I are of the same opinion. We've got to continue our education so that we can pass that on. And it's true. I go to a lot of trade shows. I have lots of opportunity to speak to retailers, which gives me lots of opportunity to hear other, people talk, and they do have a repetitive message. And some things, Bob, are absolutely worth repeating. But that message has to continue to evolve. We live in a dynamic world. We live in an ever-changing, modern retail doesn't describe what we live in today. It's no longer modern retail. It's something we can't define, and we have to continue to adapt and change.
That's exactly right. And so this is something that I find very interesting. So the entire disruption, sort of really, really pushed independent brick and mortar retailers online, all of a sudden we saw people doing their own television shows. We saw people emulating the Home Shopping Network and QVC, and we saw people really, changing the way that they did business. One of our Platinum Mastermind group members, did her first live video, and she was terrified. But guess what? She did great, and now she's doing it all the time.
Right.
So, there's that whole evolving thing, which is, that's what I love about disruptions. Disruptions do two things. Disruptions, sort of prune the field. You know, there's a lot of dead weight out there.
Right.
There was, and those people don't survive. And don't get me wrong, I am incredibly sympathetic. As somebody who almost went broke several times in my business career, I'm incredibly sympathetic. But, you know, it really is the evolution of retail. And the disruption really led to, you know, new strategies, new ways of thinking. You know, it led to better, stronger, more resilient retailers.
Right. And Bob, I'm empathetic, you know, for those people that the stores closed, but I'm also that person that says that store closed because it needed to close. They did not take the required action when they needed to. They put their head in the sand. You know, they didn't step up. They didn't drive to survive. You know, they focused on expense instead of revenue. And unfortunately, that's part of this real world. And I think that 30% of the retail businesses, you know, that close on an ongoing basis are the ones that are supposed to close. And our retailers that continue to thrive and survive are the ones that are supposed to do that.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, Dan Sullivan has this idea of the accountability economy.
Right.
You know, when you become an entrepreneur, when you decide to own your own business, you are now signing up for, you know, this is the real world. It is giving you feedback in real time. If your customers love you, it's because you're doing a great job. If your customers hate you, it's because you're not. If your sales are growing, it's because you're doing the right things. If they're not, it's because you're not doing enough of the right things. So
Right.
I love this whole idea of, look, this is, you know, hey, baby, this is the real world. This is what we signed up for. And that's what I love about being an entrepreneur. I mean, Dan, you're an entrepreneur too.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's what we do. If we're doing it well, we're being rewarded. If we're not, we're being told.
Right.
Just look at your P&L.
Look at your profit and
P&L
loss.
is telling you need to do something different. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that we have an obligation, Bob, to be straight with people, not to be friends with people. And I don't mean that to sound, I don't want to be friendly, but you know, people don't engage me to be their friend. They engage me to be honest with them, to be objective, and to call a spade a spade. You know, if you're not happy with your success, change it. You control this.
Right.
You influence this. You're not happy? Get out.
I couldn't. That's right. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, yeah. Bob, you know, before we let you go, I want you to tell us really, you know, first a little bit more about WhizBang training, retail training, and how they get to that. You know, I want you to talk a little bit about, you know, the Retail Success Summit, which is a huge success, and something that, you know, we've attended, I've attended, been a part of a few times, and thoroughly enjoyed that. So I want you to share a little bit of that, and then of course I want you to share with us what's next for WhizBang.
Okay. So you want the quick rundown on WhizBang training and what we offer. Is that what I'm hearing?
I do. I want you to be able to share that with our audience.
Okay. Sure. So, you know, as I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of free resources, particularly if you sign up for our tip of the week. Our website is WhizBang. There's an H in Whiz, WhizBangtraining.com. And we send out a weekly tip and a weekly video blog called Real Retail TV. And we do lots and lots of free stuff, you know, webinars and things like that. We also have a community called WhizBang Retailers. That's a Facebook community. And there's a lot of engagement. It's a great community.
And how many people, Bob, are a member of that community right now?
Well, right now there's about 4,000.
4,000. What a great resource.
Retailers. Yeah, and you know, and it's positive. We keep it positive.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the things that you know everybody knows is that these online forums tend to become a complaint fest, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you get a couple of whiny people and everybody piles on. Well, we don't allow that. You know, it's positive. You have a suggestion. You're looking for a solution. We'll help you, but no whiners in WhizBang Retail. But we also have a couple of products and programs that are worth mentioning.
Yes.
The Retail Mastery System is our flagship product, and it is the most comprehensive training program for independent retailers anywhere. There's 11 modules. There's over 24 hours of training in it. So if you sort of want to, that whole package, that's the Retail Mastery System. The Retail Sales Academy now is our online sales training program, and that is for the Retail Mastery System is for owners and managers. The Retail Sales Academy is for frontline employees, and in my opinion, it's the most robust sales training program out there because it has built-in follow-up and follow-through. So there's that, and you mentioned the Retail Success Summit. It is the world's largest educational event for independent retailers. And yeah, it's something we're very, very, very proud of.
It happens in the middle of the summertime, right, Bob? The WhizBang, the Success Summit?
Sometimes in the summer, even though it's a pretty big event, in our opinion, there's about 500 retailers come from all over the world. We're a small fish in a very big pond when it comes to convention centers. Right. So it's either late spring or early summer.
Got you. Okay. Sorry, and then Platinum Mastermind.
Yep, and we have one high-end application and invitation-only group. And several of the people who are in that group, and it's a mastermind. We meet 3 times a year in person, and it's just a bunch of really smart retailers getting together, sharing ideas, supporting each other, and helping each other grow as people and businesses.
Terrific. Bob, I'm sure we could probably talk for a long time, and maybe I'll extend an opportunity to be able to invite you back. I would love to have you. I think there's a ton of things that we can talk about. I'm a fan, I'm a believer, and watch the things that you do closely. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is absolutely our pleasure to have you here.
Well, Dan, like I said in the beginning, it's an honor. I love the work that you do. I love the work that your company does. We're all in this together, right? You and I and all of your colleagues at Management One and Christopher. There's so many people who are out. We are out here, helping the community of independent retailers, because I happen to believe that independent brick and mortar retail is the future of retail. And not many people believe that. But by golly, I do.
Yeah, I as well. Yes, for sure. Awesome. Thank you so much, Bob. A pleasure.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Take care.
Have a great day. Here's another great podcast you should check out. In fact, if you haven't already, subscribe above and check out all of our podcasts. Subscribe above or visit thewealthyretailer.com and join our newsletter.